Mike, N6MRP, is our club event committee chairman, coordinator. What is your title? He's the guy who coordinates the club's participation in these community events. And he's had a tougher job than usual this year, not because of all the events, because of all the non-events, is all the planning that's going into them, and then having to redo plans. So the meeting was scheduled for to come up with our last event for the year was going to be the motorcycle event, Enduro, and that was just canceled at the last minute here. So, but we thought, let's get this information out there, get people psyched up and ready to go for next year. It's a great way. You get to win wonderful T-shirts, and as well as participate in very worthwhile causes. Here we go. Excellent. Yeah, MS Walk. That's a lot. It's a lot of fun. So with that introduction, Mike, take it away.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Greg. Well, as Greg mentioned, this was quite a year for our club volunteer events. If you'd gone back to our club website back in February, you would have seen this screenshot from our main page of all the events that we had scheduled for this year. And then suddenly something came up, and that was COVID-19. And it canceled out everything that we had planned to do this year. But we are a forward-looking club, and we are looking for a big events for next year. So we're looking to populate this for next year. Well, amateur radio is a big hobby. There's many different aspects to it. There's things like contests, Morse code, satellite communications. And then there's also public service down here. And under public service, there's things such as emergency communications, ARRLs. And then there's also community volunteer events. So this evening, I'm going to be talking about our club's involvement in community volunteer events. Before I get into the bulk of my talk, though, I do want to give a big thanks to my predecessor, George Simmons, KG6 LSB. George, if you're out there, can you put your video on so people can see you? Anyway, George spent many years running our volunteer events. He's the one who worked with the event coordinators. He developed our procedures. He got the volunteers. And he's the one who laid the foundation for how we do our volunteer events to this day. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to George, KG6 LSB, for all the years that he spent running our club's volunteer events. Okay, for the overview today, I'm going to be talking about why we do public service, why we do it as a hobby, as a club, and as individual ham radio operators. And then I'll talk about the types of events that we participate in, and those will be charity, competition, and public service events. And then I'll talk about how we operate, the equipment and the procedures that we use. Okay, why does amateur radio as a hobby, and why does our club get involved in public service? Well, I can probably think of many, many different things, but for our hobby, I kind of thought, well, probably an important reason why we as a hobby get involved in public service is it helps us keep our frequency spectrum. When we do community volunteer events, we primarily use the 2-meter frequency spectrum. And this is a frequencies that private enterprise would love to buy. They would pay the government big money to get these frequencies. But by us as a hobby, using the 2-meter frequencies to support our communities, it just adds extra clout for us to keep these frequencies. And then why does our club get involved in public service events? Well, if you go to our club's website, the main page, if you go to the upper right-hand corner, you'll see this little logo right here. And this is a logo for the ARRL Special Service Club. And this designation is given to clubs that have active club participation and active community involvement. So by us as a club doing the community events, public service, it helps us keep our designation as an ARRL Special Service Club. But why do individual ham operators volunteer? Again, I thought, well, gosh, there's so many different reasons why we volunteer. I think I'll boil it down to four. Said, well, a lot of ham radio operators just like to take their radios out and operate in field conditions. And it's a little bit different than operating at home. And then some of us like to promote our hobby to the public. We like to go out to these special events, set up a table, put our radios on it, talk to the public about the amateur radio. We like to promote our hobby to the public. A third reason is I think a lot of people really enjoy serving their community. People get a sense of satisfaction out of helping their fellow citizens. So this gives us an opportunity to serve our community. But I think the biggest reason why we volunteer is the same reason that we join a ham radio club, why we are members of the Sierra Foothills Amateur Radio Club. It's camaraderie. We like being around other ham radio operators. We like working with them. And so when we do community volunteer events, it just adds to that camaraderie. You see this photo down here. It's some of our folks getting ready to head off to the CERA Enduros the past couple of years. So it just leads to that camaraderie. Okay, I'll talk about the types of events that we get involved with. There's charity events, that would be the MS Walk Folsom. Then there's competition events. And competition events are broken down between club run and club supported. And club run events are ones that we as a club organize, we get the volunteers, and we run the communications. And those will be the CERA Enduros and the Fat Track. The club supported competition events are events that we don't run, but we do help these events get volunteers. So those would be the Tevis Cup and the Western States Endurance Run. And then the last type of event that we work with would be the public relations events. And this is where we go out and set up our tables at an event, put up our radios, different equipment, and talk to the public, and hopefully get new members into our hobby. And that would be the STEM Expo, the Mini Maker Faire, and the Jamboree on the air. Okay, let's say that you are interested in volunteering for one of our events. Where do you find our events? Well, go to our club website. It's the w6ek.org main page. And you'll see, scrolling down, and you'll see this listing here, club volunteer events. And it'll give the date of the event, the name of the event, and the contact person. So if you're interested in volunteering for an event, just contact the contact person, and they can put you on the list or give you some additional information. Okay, give a little bit of background on that. Let me go into the individual events that we do. And again, the only charity event that we now sponsor is the Multiple Sclerosis Walk in Folsom. In years past, we had different events that we did, but they're no longer doing them in our area. So the only one in the area is the MS Walk Folsom. And this is a very simple event. It lasts about 2 hours. And the walk is on a course that goes 1.5 miles. And the equipment that you need to work this event is just very basic. You just need 2-meter HTs if you're working out in the field. Now, if you're net control, and if you see the photo there in the upper left, you see Joe Ramirez, and you see Greg Dolkus, and you see Matt Pauley. They are there at net control, and they use a 2-meter mobile station. And they're at net control, and they've got the event leadership behind them. And so if they need to relay a message to them, they can do that. So you have net control, and then you have 3 rest stops. And here we have Les Green and we have Jim Jupin, and they're at one of the rest stops, and they are the eyes and ears of the event. And they're just operating HTs out there. So this is a great event for new hams, and I highly recommend this if you're new to ham radio or you are new to the club and you just like to see how a volunteer event is operated. I'd say volunteer for this one because it's a real simple event. It's very short. You need just basic equipment, and you can see how an event is operated. So that's our only This is our only event that is for charity, the MS Walk Folsom. Next, we get into our competition events that the club runs. And the first one is going to be CERA Enduros. CERA stands for California Endurance Riders Association. And an enduro is a dirt motorcycle ride. And our club has supported these enduros for many, many years. And they're held in El Dorado National Forest, just east of Georgetown. And they're held in very rugged terrain. It's very hilly, you got some valleys there. And at this event, we have a net control station at the Mace Mill headquarters area. And because this is a rugged area where we don't have line of sight between some of the stations, we have to have a relay station, which is up on a high hill. Actually, I wouldn't say a mountaintop, but a very high hill, but it's line of sight to all the different stations. So we have a relay station, and then we have either 2 or 3 remote stations around the course, depending upon the event. And because we are operating in such rugged terrain, we do have to use 2-meter mobile equipment. And we need to have a battery out there. We need to have a good antenna. We want to have some good, powerful stations out there that can get a good signal out. And in the past, we have dealt with disabled motorcycles. We've dealt with injured riders and lost riders. So there's important information out there that we relay from the field to the net control to get to the event leadership. So this is a very good event. Sometimes it's held with one event in the spring, one in the fall. Sometimes I do both in one weekend, but this is a very good event, and we've supported this for years. The next club-supported competition event is Fat Track, Folsom Auburn Trail Riders Action Coalition. It's a mountain bike organization. And they were going to have this year, they sponsor numerous bike rides around the area, but this year they're going to have a new one, and it was called Forest Hill Fondo, a new event for 2020. And the start and finish was going to be at Forest Hill. So that's where we were going to have our net control. And we were going to have 4 rest stops with radio stations, with the furthest one up at Robinson's Flat. So we were going to run this event similar to the CERA Enduro. The only difference with this is the terrain is not quite as rugged. It's paved road to all the radio stations, whereas at the CERA Enduro, it's dirt roads. But So anyway, this event was all planned. We had everything ready to go. And then the virus situation hit and we had to cancel it. So we've got this all ready for next year, and we're looking forward to next year with this. Okay. The next events are club supported events where we just help them get volunteers. And that would be the Tevis Cup and the Western States Endurance Run. Excuse me. The Tevis Cup is a horse race, horse and rider, and the Western States Endurance Run is a foot race. And both of these events use the Western States Trail, which is 100 miles long, and the trail starts out in Nevada by the border, and it comes up over the Sierra, comes down the mountains, it goes down into canyons up along ridges and such, and it terminates in Auburn. So it's a 100-mile course, and it has numerous rest stops along the 100 miles. But at several of these rest stops, they do have radio stations. The difference with these stations is they track the participants that are passing through the stations. And so to do this, they do not call the people passing, or the participants passing through by voice. They use Winlink. So people who volunteer for this, they should hopefully have a Winlink capable station. So down here on the bottom, you see Orion and Brian, and they are operating a Winlink station at, I think this was the Western States Endurance Run. I can't remember. Otherwise, you see Aaron here, he's using voice. And so just normal message and information traffic is sent by voice on this. So these are the two club supported events that we encourage people to volunteer for. These are great events and some real rugged terrain to get out to some of these places. But these events are a lot of fun. Okay, we've talked about the events that we participate in. I'll get into the other type later, but go into the field event operations, how to prepare for an event. So let's say that you're interested in volunteering for an event. Again, you go to the club website and you see what you want to volunteer for, and you contact the person who's running the event. Then you get your name put on the list, and then eventually you'll be given your assignment. You'll be given your assignment on where and when to report, and then any instructions that are particular to your location or to the event. And then you'll also be given a list of frequencies that you'll want to program into your radio. Then, once you get that, then you want to get your equipment together. You want to get a radio, a battery, coax, and antenna. You want to set up a radio station that is appropriate to where you're going to be operating. And once you get everything together, very important, test everything out. You don't want to go out to the event and all of a sudden turn your radio on and something's not working. So test everything out before you go. Make sure everything is working. And then think about backup items, what you might need out there. Think about things such as a fuse. What would happen if you blew a fuse out there in the field? Do you have a spare fuse? Think about different backup items. And also, when you are assigned to a position, you were normally assigned with another ham radio operator. So call your partner and find out what radio equipment they're bringing, and coordinate so that you have two radios at least out there. Think of backup items, because you're going to be operating remotely sometimes, and you just want to make sure everything is working. And then something else that's important, you look over at the photo there, you see Aaron Jones, and he's operating at the Tevis Cup, and it is a hot day. It's a dusty day. It's in the sun. What you want to do, you want to think of your comfort, okay? You want to think of, bringing out food and water. Think of a pop-up for shade. Think of a nice chair to sit on, and think of a table to put up all your equipment. Because what you want to do is you want to focus on operating your radio. You don't want to think about, well, I'm very uncomfortable. So think about your comfort out there. Okay, assignment positions. Talk about net control, field stations, and route rider. The net control and the field stations are must-have for events, and the route rider, that's a nice to have if we've got enough people to support it. But let me get into the net control. The net control works around the event leadership, and their job is to relay information that's coming in from the field, to relay that information to the event leadership, okay? And under net control, you always have two people at that station. You have the radio operator and you have a runner. So the radio operator is the person who is handling the microphone. He's sending out messages, receiving messages, keeping a logbook, writing down messages coming in from the field. So we got the radio operator. Then you've got the runner. Okay, the runner is there to relay the information, any notes and such from the field, to relay that to the event leadership. Now I call this position runner, okay? If it were me at my age, I would have to call it walker, but I call it a runner. And so the runner is there to take the notes to the event leadership. Okay, and then we have the field stations, and the field stations are the eyes and ears of the event, and they're out there at rest stops or different locations, And they are there to relay information, like any requests for water or supplies. They can radio that in. They can radio in that somebody has a broken down bicycle, or somebody has suffered an injury, or somebody needs assistance. They can relay that information into net control. Then you've got the route rider. And again, the route rider is a nice to have position. It's not completely necessary, but if we have people to staff it, we will do it. One is a SAG truck. SAG means support and gear. And in a SAG truck, what they do is they ride the course with the supplies, and it's normally like on a long bicycle ride. So they ride along the course, and if they see any bicyclists broken down, they can offer assistance. So if we have a radio operator, we can put the radio operator as a passenger in the vehicle and call in communications of anything that's going on that they see that net control may need to know about. And then the bicycle route rider, well, that's me on my mountain bike, and this is at the MS Walk Folsom. And again, I mentioned that the MS Walk Folsom is just 1.5 miles long, so I'm there on my bicycle, and I've got a radio with me, so I'm just riding along the route, and if I see somebody who needs assistance, I can just radio it in to net control. So those are the assignment positions that we've got for events. Okay, let's talk about the procedures that we use at events. We, as radio operators, our job is to send messages and information. And this is really critical. We are not there to make decisions for anybody, for either the staff or the participants. So if a rest stop needs water, we can call that in. If a bicyclist is broken down, we can call that in. But if somebody comes up to us and asks us for a decision on something, we cannot make a decision for anybody. Again, we just send messages and information only. Next, we identify ourselves. Excuse me. We identify ourselves by our position name and not our call sign. So, in other words, we all identify ourselves. We'll say this is Relay, this is Darling Ridge. We don't say this is N6 MRP. So we identify ourselves by our position name. And then this is a very important procedural issue, is we want to identify participants by their number and not their name, because the participant privacy is critical, especially if we're dealing with an injured participant. So everybody who is a participant in one of these events, they're given a number. And so if we have to call something in about them, we use their number and not their name. So we have to respect their privacy. So that's a very, very important issue. And then finally, at the end of your transmissions, FCC rules apply, give your call sign. Okay. Now we've gone through the procedures and the other things. I'd like to do a little bit of a role play here of a sample communications. These are communications you'd likely hear at an event, and I'll use the CERA Enduro. I mentioned that the CERA Enduro, it's a very rugged area. It's mountains, canyons, very rugged terrain, and so between some of the stations, like between fuel stop and net control, they could not communicate directly to each other because there's a hill in the way. So in this case, if fuel stop needs to get a message to net control, they would have to first contact relay. And remember, relay is up on top of a hill on a high point. And then relay can relay that message to net control. And then again, the communications can go back from net control to relay to fuel stop. So we've got Greg Golkas and Orion. We're going to, and I are going to be doing a sample communications for what you would hear. And so let's see, Orion, your fuel stop, so you'll go ahead and start with this. So
alrighty. Relay, this is fuel stop. We have traffic for net control.
Relay, go ahead.
Rider 25 is at this location with a flat tire and needs transport to Mace Hill.
Copy. Rider 25, your location, needs transport to Mace Hill. Thanks. I'll relay it to Net Control.
Thank you. Fuel stop clear. AI6JB.
Net Control, relay?
Go ahead, relay. This is Net Control.
Yeah, Fuel Stop advises that Rider 25 has a flat tire at their location and needs transport to Mace Mill.
Okay, copy same relay. We'll notify event leader.
Thank you very much. KO60H, relay.
Net Control clear, N6 MRP. Okay, so at this point, then Net Control would write down the note, and they would, then the runner or the walker would get the information over to the event leadership, and then event leadership would make a decision on what to do, and then here's the communications a few minutes later. So Net Control says, relay, this is Net Control.
Relay, go.
Relay, this is Net Control.
Relay, go ahead.
Please advise Fuel Stop that a truck has been dispatched to their location to pick up Rider 25 and their motorcycle. ETA is 15 minutes.
Copy. Truck on its way to Fuel Stop, ETA 15 minutes.
Net Control clear, N6 MRP.
Fuel Stop, this is relay.
Fuel stop, go ahead.
Yeah, Net Control advises that a truck is on its way to your location, ETA 15 minutes.
All right, 15 minutes till truck arrives to pick up Rider 25. Fuel stop clear, AI6JB.
Thank you. Relay clear, KO60H.
Okay, so that's sample communications. And once the truck arrives at Fuel Stop, then Fuel Stop would, of course, update on the situation. Okay, so that's like a sample communications. And now I will get into the last of the public relations, or the last type of event that we participate in. And that would be the public relations events. And these events are done so that we can demonstrate and sell our hobby. Now, we do these events under the auspices of the ARRL Sacramento Valley section. And the reason that we set these up as a club is because these events are done in our area. So the event is done in Rocklin, Roseville, or up in Auburn. So we would organize it, but we would not organize it as the Sierra Foothills Amateur Radio Club. We would organize it as the ARRL, and then underneath the Sacramento Valley section. So we actually have many other clubs that volunteer. So we have other clubs that participate in this. And so when we do these events, we will set up tables, and we'll set up 2-meter radios, HF radios, different homebrew items. And we let the public get on the air. We answer their questions about the ham radio. But one of the things we found on these events, the thing that draws the attention for young kids is the Morse code keys. And I kind of find that fascinating, that with all the high technology that we have, it is the oldest technology that we have in ham radio that draws the attention of the young kids. It's the Morse code keys. So I'll talk about the individual events. The first one is the STEM Expo. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And this is dubbed as an alternative science fair for students. And it's held at William Jessup University. And so the students will have their displays, their projects off for judging. And while they do that, there's another area set up where different organizations set up their booths and talk to the public. So here we have Greg, KF6TH, and he's got a CubeSat, and he's talking to some people about the CubeSat. So STEM Expo, that's one of our events. Then another event that we participate in is the Rocklin Mini Maker Fair. And this is an event for hobbyists and others to show their projects. And this is geared towards high school students and college students, but there's a lot of families that participate in this. And so I see a lot of parents bringing their kids over, and and there's quite a few people there. And this is held at Sierra College. So here we see Dustin Yu and Greg talking to members of the public. And again, we do this under the auspices of the ARRL. And we had several other clubs participating in this last year. So the Rocklin Mini Maker Faire. And then the last event is the Jamboree on the Air. And this is an international scouting event. And we hold it for the Sacramento Valley Scouts. And we set up 2-meter radios, HF stations, CW stations, satellite. You see Greg there with his satellite Yagi antenna. And these events are organized by Orion, AI6JB. Orion is very involved with the scouting community. And you see him there with his scouting uniform on. And so we hold this every year. And we let the scouts get on the radio, make some calls, and hopefully from all of this, we get some new people into ham radio. Okay, so this has been quite a year for volunteer events. Everything that we had planned was canceled due to the COVID-19 situation, but we're looking forward to 2021. So we've talked about our club and community service, why ham radio and individual members get involved. And then we've talked about the types of events. And I just want to say that participating in volunteer events is just a great way to serve your community and work together with your fellow club members. It's a great way to get that camaraderie as a club by participating in these club events. So next year, we plan on having a full range of events scheduled, and we're looking forward to seeing you at one of our events next year in 2021. So thank you very much. Greg?
Oh, thank you, Mike. Very good presentation.
Great, thank you.
Hopefully next year we'll have a few more and or a few actual events, and we can get in there and participate. I should clarify that I'm not at all of the events. I think he cherry-picked some of the the events I was involved with.
Quite a few.
Questions for Mike? We have a few minutes here. Any questions?
Just a comment that I really appreciate that presentation. That was a very thorough presentation, and I thought it was awesome. I think my oldest son, who is a student at William Jessup, has tried to tell me about the STEM Expo. He's a ham. He's KN6GVQ. I didn't understand what he was saying until now, so I appreciate that presentation. I got it.
Yes, we've done the STEM Expo for many years.
Yeah, that's a fun one. It's almost more fun to wander around and see the exhibits than to talk to you, because it's just a lot of really creative stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, Brian, back to you.